Yeah. He's a Hello and welcome to Springboard, your virtual university. My name is Albert Okran. Welcome you to Ghana's foremost developmental program and that place where the greatest minds in the world converge. Springboard is brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation in partnership with MTN Ghana, the Enterprise Group, and the Ghana Growth Program, a collaboration between Mastercard Foundation and Springboard. Our media partners, the Multimedia Group and Graphic. Last week, we began a conversation about building and maintaining healthy relationships. Many of you are dealing with some of the issues that we raised, and these conversations continue on social media. Go find all the posts and all the responses, and let's see how we can continue this conversation. But today we push on to an even more exciting and also a very important dimension: the challenges, the issues that relationships face. My guests once again from last week and here again today, Elder Amos Kevin-Annan, certified life coach, healthy homes advocate, and the CEO of Hearts and Habits Foundation. Elder, good to see you again.
Nice. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for agreeing to push on and hopefully support our listeners and viewers.
Couldn't have resisted, especially when you brought Doc.
Yeah.
I wanted to enjoy her company too.
You see,
and learnings.
Talking about Doc, we also are here with Dr. Ruth Owusu-Antwi, lecturer at the medical school at KNUST, and also the head of psychiatry at Komfo Anokye Teaching Hospital. Doc is the immediate past president of the Psychiatric Association of Ghana. Doc, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Right.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So reflections from last week, what stayed in your mind from last week's conversation?
Someone looking for the ideal finds an ordeal, and now is
looking for the real deal.
Looking for the real deal.
if for any reason you didn't watch it or listen to last week's, you just must do this again because it was priceless. Amos, what was your takeout?
Well, I think that's so I saw the collaboration
and then real issues, Andy.
Yeah, the optics against the reality.
Yeah. From where you sit, let me start with you this time. Doc, what are some of the most challenging issues that relationships face today? I know there's so many of them, but give me maybe your top three or the ones that are so strong in your mind.
I have been given the opportunity to counsel will-be couples and then take them also even further in postmarital counseling. And one of the things I see coming up primarily, especially in the first 5 years, is finances. People are competing with each other. They are not transparent in their finances, and it is breaking down a lot of homes and relationships. So it's not about, I don't have the money, but I am not sure how much you even earn. We cannot agree on how we are supporting to let us run the home financially. I would say financial, not being transparent with our finances. I don't know why you would deliberately keep your partner from knowing how much you can actually help with.
Is the concealing around what you earn or what you spend?
Both. So if you don't know how much I earn, then you don't know that this thing I'm having, I was able to purchase it myself. You are not sure whether somebody dashed it to me or you're even lying about it. And I think that money is not worth taking anybody to hell. Money is not worth breaking any relationship down. Sika yebetoy, like we say in Osekro. So why should it be the thorn of flesh in that relationship? Nobody, no matter the riches they have, gets buried with their money. We will leave it behind. So I tell people, let it go. If you are able to, give it and don't conceal it. So I advise young people, be transparent when it comes to your finances. And I think it's one of the major things for young relationships.
Oh, take the
Listen,
scene, please.
The second place is, I think the culture we have been brought up with, that certain things are for men, certain things are for women. We are so enclosed and encamped and probably enslaved in those cultures, that it is the man that does this, is the woman's role to do this. In fact, the woman cannot even initiate intimacy in your rightful place as a wife. Breaking down a lot of these relationships. Women are silently struggling. Men are unnecessarily crying because I came home and my wife was not home. And although there were stews and soups in the fridge, I could not get up, microwave something, and feed myself. Sitting down waiting for my wife, who comes in at 8 p.m. and then, hey, hell breaks loose that I've been home all this time. You were not here to serve me my meal. I grew up in a very traditional home, and I believe in some of these things. Getting married as a doctor, I kept saying that, look, I would make sure that I marry the traditional way. I want to serve my husband. I want to do what a wife is expected to do. But hey, I meet a man who doesn't care. I mean, it doesn't matter. You can see him in the kitchen, and sometimes I wash the cars. And I think it's very peaceful.
That is why you've done 17 years. You're still looking good.
As much as you have the strength, just do it for the sake of peace, for the sake of the continuity of the relationship. So boxing ourselves in some strict traditional and cultural norms is also eating us up and affecting.
So the one is finances, two is our socialization. One is transparency in finances. The second one is the socialization that constructs cultural blocks and puts people in it and expects them to operate in it. Would you have a third?
The third, I think we talked about it in our previous discussions, came up a little bit about each one of us striving to make it and forgetting about the relationship itself. So we are both struggling to get promotions at our various workplaces, at what we do, trying to be good at it, and not turning back to see whether our primary responsibility as a couple, so whether we deserve promotion there, whether it is also growing. And at the end of the day, our work competes with our partners, and people are silently craving for attention that was rightfully theirs, bringing a lot of dissatisfaction and disaffection against each other in relationships.
Each of these three could run a 10-week series. Let's get your three nominations.
Well, I mean, aside what Doc has mentioned, I was looking at competitors.
Okay.
I was looking at conflicts and then coupling. Now, I think in alliteration, so forgive me for the C's.
That's okay.
So if I was to do Doc's zone, I'll talk about cash. I'll talk about cultural codes, adding to it. The issue of competitors, it could be visible or virtual competitors. And children can actually be competitors because they change the dynamics of an otherwise relationship between a husband and wife to now a third party coming in. And this third party, interestingly, their survival hinges on a good marriage. Unfortunately, we get distracted and become parents and not good husband and wife. So the best gift you really can give to your child as a parent is the love you have with your spouse. Because that's a huge building block from which they grow. Many young people now dread whether they'll, after a vacation, when they come home for vacation, there'll be dad and mom together. And either sitting in classroom before they were leaving, saw the turbulent relationship that existed between dad and mom and the acrimony. So they sit in class, and instead of concentrating on what the teacher is teaching, they are now processing how to salvage dad and mom. When we put children through this, we destroy them by ourselves. Now, the issue of conflict. Conflict is not to be avoided, because at the heart of conflict, differences. That's all there is. Differences, when they get out of hand and not properly managed, then escalates into other things. So conflict with yourself, what the psychologists and psychiatrists call intrapersonal conflict, shows in interpersonal relationships and conflict that exist. So how you are managing your own conflict with values, conflict with choices, conflict with personality types, conflict with how you receive and render love, for instance, conflict in expectations and lived experiences. Those are real conflicts, and it has to be clearly identified. I remember I was sharing with Doc, I was in Nigeria with bishops, and we were discussing cold wars in marriage and how to deal with it. And I was amazed to see how important that subject was to bishops and their wives. And the wives were, during the break, they said, I'm dealing with a lot of women who say, suddenly my husband, who used to be a talker, he's smooth, he could, coerce you, do all the raps, as we say in Ghana. Suddenly after we settled, he's not talking. And they're craving for conversations. And so rather than just harp on communication, which tends to be too formal and structured, conversations, because our vulnerability is in our ability to have a conversation. That's where you say things you don't pay attention to, but can be held to them. So you don't have the opportunity with a pre-prepared script to come and, rattle and go away. No, she's raising questions, punching holes in all those areas. Now, the issue of coupling. How are we coupling together? Because coupling is crucial.
For the benefit of viewers and listeners.
So how we interact and engage with the person we love. How we try to synchronize our activities so that there's harmony. Because if you don't do that, there will be discord, there will be tension, there will be misunderstanding. My wife is going to speak at, say, Fiesta Royal. I'm coming to East Legon. Instead of us driving in separate cars, we know that we'll be able to finish in a certain time. So I said, okay, let's drive in one car. Who will have the car, you or me? We have synchronized our schedules so that as a couple, we also benefit in a seamless way. Now, each couple must look at that. How do we couple together? Be on the same page. And if you like, sing from the same hymn book.
I got a chance to listen into a boys conversation. And they had one question for me. They say, you and your wife are too close. You work together, at church together, and you are often hanging out together. Don't you get bored? I need my space. For that person who feels, listen, also, we are home together. Now, driving to you, what does it drive together? You're talking about coupling. Will it not be, for the person who feels it will be too much for them? What would you say?
I mentioned the COVID experience of being in my face, being on my case, being in my space.
That's in the last conversation.
Yes. When you have that feeling, what you need to do is to begin to take a step back and do a review of the converse. You'll be shocked that the converse is dire and devastating.
What's the converse?
The converse will be where you're absent from each other. Everybody lives in a silo. So the silos are built, your life to yourself, which is happening to many, many marriages. Each one for himself.
That's what I'm trying to get us to address.
So we need to get the young people to appreciate that this is a person you committed to spending a lifetime with. Enjoying their company is something you must intentionally do. Because it's not going to happen simply because you spoke in tongues or because you carried a Bible. You've got to pursue each other.
How?
Of course, what you need to do is to recognize the spaces in which you work. So you don't go to your wife's office and turn it into a romantic space, because then it takes away from productivity. So you need to learn how to balance. Like, I'm in a school where my daughter is there. And I've told her, when I come to school, I'm daddy, but I'm not daddy. You see, so she knows when to come to my office and when not to come to my office. She's a young girl, but she's appreciated that. Spouses need to know that. And in coupling, there's something, I call it marital IRS, intimacy, romance, and sex. There's a huge battle in that area. If you read the top 3 problems in marriage, this would always come up.
Yeah.
Intimacy. What is intimacy to the man? What is intimacy to the woman? Because men see it as physical, women don't necessarily see it as physical. And so you need to have a conversation as a couple around the subject. Romance. What is romantic to you? For some, it's a date out. For others, it's a trip beyond the borders.
How do you navigate 2 diametrically opposed perspectives? Because earlier on, Doc mentioned the fact that if you've been socialized in a certain way, you genuinely believe this is the way.
I remember one day we went to do a session on temperaments, and one lady came to me. Me couldn't say what say I'm not here. To wait. My husband just reminded me that you've described him, and that's who he is.
Yeah.
Let me take him just as he is. But we grow, we change. You know, you should not be stuck where you are if it is not helping the relationship. Because growth is part of learning. And when you learn
learned behaviors,
and unlearned behaviors, because you don't only learn, you must unlearn certain things to be.
Let's stay with that for a while. I am naturally introverted.
Yeah.
And on any day, I'd rather be by myself. But by virtue of the relationships I have, my pastoral work, I have to be concerned about people's, how they feel, and that child you spoke about the last time, where is he or she? And those who know me in my state of nature know I'd rather be doing research quietly, still behind my computer and writing. They say, how do you do it? Because my children laugh at me. They say, when I get to church, something comes over me. And they say, you've done it so much, it's become part of you. I said, I have no choice. I truly care about the people. So when I do what I do, I'm not pretending. I've learned to do it because I need to do it because it matters to me. I mean, what is the power of learned and unlearned behaviors for that person who says, this is how I've always been? Let me come to you, Doc, on that.
In psychology, we say that anything you do more than 20 times sticks with you, becomes a habit.
Preach.
So if you really want to do this, I also read on temperaments very early in my upbringing. I'm not surprised I ended up as a psychiatrist. I wanted to know why people behave the way they behave and all that. And I read one of the books, Tim LaHaye, and I realized that, yes, you can be born or naturally extrovert or introvert, but you can lead a spirit-controlled temperament where you are what you have to be to whichever group of people you are meeting, to the glory of God and to the benefit of the advancements of God's kingdom. If you are an introvert and as a pastor you finish preaching and you're in your office or in your car, you're gone, someone who was supposed to get an encouraging word from you that day misses it and may cost him or her.
And cost you ultimately.
Because the sheepfold would not have been blessed under your care. And so if you really need to learn something, let us forget about media sanamity.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is that we go the extent and add on media sana nyame board. Where were you when God was creating you? You know, if a particular pattern is not working for your relationship, you have the ability, the right, and the help of God to change it. And it takes you doing it at least 20 times over and over again to become a habit. And if we make our mind to learn something, it is possible.
There's this school of thought that says successful marriages, successful relationships are premised on not trying to change your partner. Because if you attempt it, you will be so frustrated and you would eventually probably walk out. But here I hear you also talking about change? Is it that you are telling the person themselves to change, in which case it is not their partner trying to change them?
Again, early in my marriage, I find my husband closing from work and coming home late, and I'm weeping, crying, and telling God, "What? This is not what I signed up for. I waited for marriage and I expected it to be bliss. It's the two of us cozy together all the time, and now he comes back home late. His work demands that he closes late." And I added to my prayer. Then I hear a still small voice say, "No, you change." And it turned my life around. Just around that time, a friend of mine had given me a book during my birthday,
love
The
reading.
Power of a Praying Wife.
Yeah. This Tommy Marshall Tommy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was shocked. The Holy Spirit referred me to some specific pages, and my prayer changed. God changed me. It is fruitless and futile to try to change the other person. And because I went through this myself, I don't only say it because I have read about it. I have actually lived it. So he still comes home late.
Still.
And does not come home to meet an angry, complaining wife. And I'm not pretending, because I've allowed myself for God to work on me such that it's not annoying anymore. I don't find it a problem anymore. I have come to a point of understanding. Until one day I sat back, I'm like, what happened to me?
Yeah.
My problem, I'm fine. My issues have stopped. I don't have an issue again. So you don't change someone.
And they are constantly somebody, and the person is telling you the exact same thing. And it's so furious, and says, "I can't take it anymore." You're like,
you can take it. You change, and God will do the rest.
You know, trying to fix the spouse can be frustrating. Yeah. Unfortunately, the individuals in marriage, they see their spouse as an equation to be balanced on both sides. Maybe simultaneous equation, or a question to be answered. Don't see people like that. It is an exercise in futility. You will kill yourself. And because I take couples on a retreat, I've heard many times told me, I thought my spouse was worse. But when I sat in the breakout session where only men couples and only women hang out and we're talking about the real things in marriage, I realized how good my spouse was.
My goodness.
And I hear it every time. And in any of the retreats I go, if there's a breakout where you're doing a diagnosis of your own marriage, you realize how good a marriage you have, but you haven't appreciated it. Because it is said that the grass is greener on the other side. But you get there only to realize it's not as green as it was in your mind. So we need to help spouses to learn this whole posture of flexibility with each other. You know, sometimes people think that if you're an expert, you have a good marriage, or if you go to church, you have a perfect marriage. But the marriage is actually pursued by two imperfect individuals. And so there will be imperfect occurrences and situations, and they must make adjustment for each other. If you don't do that, you will struggle because you are looking for sameness. And so you don't let the differences find expression in the marriage. My wife and I have a theory: differences should not disturb. And it's a maxim. Differences should not, because you see, differences in views, differences in what we should do. That's why you need to sit and negotiate. I was listening to Jordan Peterson talk about one thing we don't train children: negotiation. How do we help young people to learn to negotiate? And when you go to negotiations, compromises are there. Yeah. Compromises, you may lose something. You may gain something. Yeah. But more than that, synergistically, we become better together instead of good alone. So I often ask couples, are you good alone or we are better together? Yeah. If anything happens in a marriage and makes you feel you're good alone instead of you being better together, it's a recipe for disaster.
Good alone versus better together. And that is the perspective of Elder Amos Kevin-Annan. Earlier on, Dr. Ruth Owusu-Antwi showed me something else in the first conversation. It was about trotro drivers last week and how they can cross you and provoke you to stop, get down, put the offense on a scale, measure the weight, and then press down, shaking together and running over, send the response. But by virtue of refinement, learning, and change, she's now able to smile and say it must be something that is just irking him. And she's looking also at her own personal journey of accepting her spouse's profession and the implications on the time he comes home, and seeing that it hasn't changed, but she's now very, very fine, and she can't believe she's so fine. What do we learn from that about this journey that we call marriage, or about partnership, or even about any relationship? It's all about learnings. And if you joined us late, number one, transparency in financial matters. Number two, socialization that puts people in cultural boxes, and those boxes threaten to implode. Number three, striving to progress and forgetting your primary responsibility as couples. Number four, competitors. Number five, conflicts. And number six, coupling. These are the 6 primary themes we are dancing around, and we've not finished scratching the surface. Let's take a break for our guests to catch their breath. When we come back, let's delve a bit more into these issues. Is there any hope for us? Let's find out after the break. Springboard is brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation in partnership with MTN Ghana, the Enterprise Group, and the Ghana Growth Program, a collaboration between Mastercard Foundation and the Springboard Roadshow Foundation. Talking about enterprise, last week I mentioned the fact that when a loved one passes suddenly, there is help, and so don't get exasperated. Let me push on to that person asking, is this for only those in the beautiful town of Accra, or those in Osei-Krom where Doc resides can also get help? And the good news is that transition services can be used in every region of Ghana. Kindly visit their website and find out details about their smart burial packages if your funeral is outside Accra. For every question funeral, call my friend Genevieve Cornelius, the only one who can talk about death and make it sound sexy. Too powerful. The number of Enterprise Group is 030-263-4777. Email info@myenterprisegroup.io. Enterprise, your advantage. Let's go for a break. When we come back, inside the pot, the reality. How tough is it? Please don't go away.
Whether it's 1924, 2024, or 2124, we've always known that you are driven by your sense of safety and well-being. It is what drives us to see you through from start to finish, from small to big. And in the last 100 years, as you have evolved, so have we also expanded to serve you in many ways. From cradle to grave, with expertise in insurance, life, pensions, properties, health, and for those beautiful memorable goodbyes. It's 2024, and in all our markets, our pedigree is recognized, our strength respected, our expertise valued, and our solutions sought by all who desire an advantage in life. Experience the time-tested and truly trusted 100 years legacy of Ghana's oldest insurer. Take charge of your future now. Insurance, life, pensions, property management, funeral services, health insurance. Enterprise, your advantage.
Learn something new every week and be inspired by innovations, impact, and success stories of individuals making strides in the agricultural, agribusiness, technical, and vocational skills sectors on Ghana Grows Ejuma with Arabo Kumsin and Yabitha. Join us this and every Thursday on Facebook at 7 p.m. at Ghana Grows, also at Comfort Okran A and at Albert N.E. Okran. On Fridays at 4 p.m. on Joy 99.7 107 FM and on Sundays at 5:45 p.m. on TV3. Ghana Grows is an initiative of Mastercard Foundation in partnership with the Springboard Roadshow Foundation. If you are a young person and you want to be a part of our various interventions, call or WhatsApp Ghana Grows call center on 0308 255 775. Follow us on all our social media handles. Ghana Grows Ejuma. Hope Day.
Welcome back to Springboard, your virtual university, and to this month of February that is unfolding as a month of conversations about quality in our relationships, our love, our marriages, our connections with each other. I've been very fortunate last week as well as today to be with Elder Amos Kevin-Annan and Dr. Ruth Owusu-Antwi, helping me to understand, in the first instance, how to build and sustain healthy relationships. And in today's edition, some of the blocks, challenges that relationships face. In case you missed it, let me walk you through some of the top ones that have come up. Financial matters and transparency of it, socialization or culture, and then also neglecting our primary responsibility as couples and striving to progress at the expense of the relationship. We also looked at competitors, internal, external, and virtual, conflicts, coupling, and very importantly, conversations like we're having now, how they can help progress relationships. I promised to mention one business run by a young person every time we convene here at the virtual university. So today, let me turn my attention to one of my finest examples of resilience and building a dream that has a big futuristic outlook. So my friend Mildred Akotia worked in McVitie's, also worked in Heinz, and told herself, can we not build this in Ghana? And came to build Akwaba Fine Foods, which principally does processing of cashews, peanuts, and other nuts and other products. And today, one of my proudest moments was sitting on United Airlines and seeing them serve Akwaba cashews and saying, yeah, Ghana, we have arrived. And so I got her into the studios and the rest is history. So today, I'm here with my nice, I tell you also I eat one a day. And I pay in full for it. I always want to add that because the friends who call you and say, Charlie, wait, they are bad friends. They must pay.
For me, can listen.
Yeah, the best way you can support a friend's business is to pay in full for it, so their business can grow. So let me give you this Akwaba cashew.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
and
you.
Then
That's it. Akwaba cashew.
It's for you. Yes. Yes. I mean, if
My
you have
traditions.
yes, if Ghanaian businesses can grow, I mean, they can employ more people, and our young people will have better lives.
It's beautifully packaged.
Yes.
And it's only 40 grams.
Yes.
So you can pack plenty.
Yeah. So, how do we progress our relationships when your point number 2 was culture? Socialization. Charlie, you have been made to believe that you are the breadwinner. And by a twist of fate, pun intended, your wife earns 3 times what you earn and closes later than you because her banking job means that she comes over 9. And you believed that she should be at home 2 hours before you. And so, I don't eat food that has survived a day. It must be fresh. How does that young man with these preconceptions that he's grown with wake up and smell the coffee that number 1, you have to come home earlier. And number 2, she earns more than you. You are not the bread. So you don't even have bread for you to win. Let's start with you, Doc. How do you unpack 2 of the principalities of relationships?
I've asked a couple of young men to see it this way. Your wife is earning more to add to the family's coffers. so that it comes to the common pool of resources. So if she's winning or earning, it's not just you, it is us. If the wife can, I would first speak to the wives. If you earn more, don't keep it alone. Don't use it for just your shopping, and don't let it appear that, okay, all of this extra, if I ask money for shopping, I go, well, I can, that's why I work hard, I can afford it. But when you earn it, bring it to the table. Let it matter to the running of the family. That way, most men will not be as worried and as jittery. In fact, they will tell you when is your next trip, because when you go, some cash will follow and they will tend to benefit. Then I'll speak to the young men. What we know is what affects us negatively. If we demystify and change that idea that, look, I am supposed to be the breadwinner, and if I am not even getting the bread, how much more to even win it, then I have failed. Then it will affect you. Psychologically, physically, and in fact, it will impact the harmony and the joy in the relationship. If you understand that what the two are one, it is only in marriage that 1 + 1 is still 1. Whatever my wife brings to the table, it is for us. Don't feel that I'm not a man enough. And watch your circle of friends and what they talk about. Work with Christian gentlemen who understand what the Word of God says about marriage and some of these things, so that they don't make you feel that you are not being man enough. I was seeing a couple who said that they go out as men to meet, and they said, look, let your wife fear you. If you don't do that, Obefa also, or she would not respect you, you know. If you keep working with such men, it will run your marriage down. And sometimes they make fun of him. Hey, as for you fear your wife, or then they've given the wife all sorts of names, Marie Jata and blah, blah, blah. And the man comes for...
What's your offense? You've probably called him and said, I'll be slightly late, but I'm coming.
In fact, the wife called and said, where are you?
Yes.
And
just checking on you.
Oh, no, now that we have come, mommy is calling you home, hurry up and go, small boy. You know, that kind of thing that they are making fun of. So he decided that he comes to the clinic and one day tells me, no, I think my whole problem is that my wife is trying to control me. In fact, my friends are even making fun of me. I'm like, what? When your wife you've not come home on time, later than your usual time, your wife is calling to check, is everything okay? Where are you? Why haven't you come home? You are rather seeing it from the negative.
If I'm just know there's a motorway accident, and that's where you travel and she's checking you.
You have taken it from the negative point of view. You would have to, those people, check their marriages. How is it going? Those who are advising you.
Elder, this is a good one. Elder, where do you stand on this issue of how the predominant cultural orientation versus the reality of our day?
You see, I grew up in a home where my dad was the one working. My mom was a domestic wife. I have a wife who is a corporate executive. If I choose to marry my wife as my dad did to my mom, I've lost my marriage from beginning. You don't need a doomsday prophet to tell you this. And so it means that I have to approach my marriage far different from my dad did. The tools my dad used can be improved to help my marriage, but I can't keep the same set of tools for my marriage. Many people fault culture and socialization, but I am of the firm belief that once a person hits 18, you're making responsible choices. Now, responsible choices means that you've seen the weight or the value in making one choice as opposed to another. That is the reason certain decisions are left to adults. Now, once I call myself an adult, it doesn't discount the pain you have had, but there's the need for you to heal from the past. So you don't find the past as a place of solace, especially when it is negative or counterproductive. Because that's what the psychiatrists and psychologists will talk about, maladaptive behavior. because it is easy to exonerate yourself from responsibility. At a certain age, you take responsibility for your choices, for your actions, and for your decisions.
What about you when you try to take responsibility, but the people that are in your circle, be they friends, sometimes even, unfortunately, marriage counselors, so-called, or people who stand in that office, strictly advise you based on what they know about how it worked within their time, and trying to tell you, listen, this is the way.
I'll show you something that happened to me when I was going to get married. There was an elderly man who called me. He said, "Oh, Amos, what is over worry? And Maddie and Jijom so. So boom. To wait. Don't pamper your wife. She'll sit on your neck and then break it." Then
Once you mention it, I check your next.
It's not broken. And I checked a bit of where he was coming from, and I discovered that his wife had won the best wax print distributor for Vlisco at the time, and she had 2 tickets, but the ticket came at a time where they were having some problem as a couple. And so the wife elected to travel with her son instead of the husband, because she didn't want drama at the trip. And this man out of pain. So coincidentally, my marriage is coming at the same time where he's not in a good mood. And his counsel to me was this. But many young people have heard me say, if I don't hear the voice of the Holy Spirit, I don't take my wife's caution for granted. Because next to the Holy Spirit, my counselor is my wife. She's the best friend I have. I've taken that decision, though I didn't see that. This is responsible choice. I could have said that, well, my dad did A, B, C, D, and I could do the same thing and find excuses in that. And we should not do those kinds of things. But if you're in a situation where you are struggling with it, you're battling to get out of that space, this is where you need help. Seek help from the right sources.
That's what I want to come to, Doc. We easily say right sources. Somebody said to me, listen, I just got the wrong person to counsel or advise. How do you tell the right one?
I think you should not just walk to anybody for counsel. It's amazing what people are being fed with. Sometimes they get to you at the last minute, and it's because someone misdirected them. Someone supposed to be very respectable and all that. Before you go to anybody for counseling, do a background check. Don't take it for granted. What are the beliefs of this person?
What do you look for?
You can even simply Google the person. Put the person's name on Google. Something will come up. Go to the person's Facebook account. See the kind of things the person talk about or chat about or post there. Make a conscious effort to know the kind of person who is going to advise you. Otherwise, there are so many so-called counselors around who will mislead you.
Let me ask a question. Are there instances where, as a couple, based on your own understanding of your situation, you may choose to solve a problem in a particular way, but anyone you tell will disagree with you? Let me give an example, and I'm not saying that example is a perfect one. Somebody said, how irresponsible can you get? What was he talking about? There was this service in a particular community where parents who both are working and therefore come home late could have their children picked from school to go to an after-school place. And I know this after-school woman, she's a retired teacher. She's just a lover of children. She will help them do their homework. If the parents delay, she will bat them. And I mentioned to somebody that this was a service somebody was using. She says, how irresponsible can they be? Listen, banking now, would you, whatever job you are doing, is it at the expense of your children? One school of thought says, I care about my child so much, I must provide the best possible support. One school of thought says, listen, I was raised in a place where the child is picked from school by their mother, and she feeds the child, she does the homework, and each one is so convinced about this being the way. Also,
Oh, we all take decisions based on assumptions, but it's important to validate those assumptions because whatever undergirds your decision or choice should be subjected to careful scrutiny. Sometimes it is the case that for you it's a convenient path as a couple. And once both of you are on the same page, really, you have to ignore what others say. Sometimes we are so much in a hurry to court the applause and the praise of people to the extent that we damage our own primary relationship. It is the two of you who are in this journey, sink, swim, or sail. You are in it together. So when you have come to a consensus on a matter, that this is the way we can move as a couple so that we are in harmony and not in discord, please pursue that. Unless, of course, it is detrimental to your party or your dependents or the entire society. Like the man who lied with his wife, you know him, and what happened to him. He lied that we have sold our land, we've given all, and then he was checkmated. And she said, "Oh yeah, we gave everything." She knew that no, my husband lied, and I also lied. And he said, "You've lied to the Holy Spirit." Conspiracy is not part of it. Conspiring to do wrong is not a virtuous pursuit. So you don't do that one. But virtuous pursuit, stick and stay, stand with each other. Don't betray each other, because the problem for many people is that myself and my spouse agree to take a decision.
Assemble and
watching on the bed.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the next time, if you actually seek their view or opinion on a matter,
I won't talk.
They say silence is golden. But what they forget is that silence itself is a statement.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
It's a profound
Yeah.
statement.
Indeed.
You know? And so we need to help couples to come to that space. And a lot of it, like Amos 3:3 will say, can two walk together unless they agree. So we are
You're
heading.
just reminding me your name is in the Bible. Yours as well. Yours as well.
Mine as well.
I have to go for my surname. My surname is in the Bible. It's in the book of Numbers. So
That's interesting. You know, so it's important that the couples know that and they work together without betraying the other party, because it is so essential. Otherwise, people will find gaping holes between you and begin to knock your heads together.
Let me take a minute before we wrap up because the two of you have just come to a conclusion that we can do a third, fourth, fifth, and sixth street, and there will still be so much to explore. But let me come to you as we wrap up. This Friday is that big day in February that some people plan for 6 months for Valentine. Any thoughts for the different categories of people building up to Valentine Day? Let's start with you, Dr. Ruth.
Valentine is about love. Let us understand what love is and situate it properly. Valentine is not equal to sex. Love is not equal to sex. If on Vows Day, you want to express love to people around you, whichever age category, there is a very vivid example of what love is. First of all, love is an action word. The first person that showed us love was God, that for God so loved the world that he gave. Let it be a period of giving. The only thing you cannot give when it comes to relationship is what you can't take back if you are in an unmarried relationship. If I give my body and this relationship does not end in marriage, can I take it back? It's gone for good. So don't give it. But you can give credit, you can give time, you can take the person out. Do things that show love, which is giving, minus your body, because you cannot take it back. In marriage relationship, that one is your bona fide property. that one enjoy fully
Hey.
in all dimensions, in all
I
levels.
like your hands going in all directions.
Let's be careful that the
Topic
devil,
number 3, all dimensions.
the devil does not steal that moment, because God is the originator of love, but we are gradually making the devil take control of that day and rather populate his kingdom. Meanwhile, the devil is not the originator of love.
Before I come to you, Elder Amos, when I was in school, there was this song by a group called Foreigner. It says, I want to know what love is. I want you to show me. I want to feel. And the word I want to feel itself a different connotation. I want to feel it. It was.
Yeah, I remember I was on the Pantu from Dambai to Krache, and then they were announcing a few years ago. They were announcing that Vows Day and Ajo girls need bad town, feelings need D, atmosphere now you're charged. And I was like, at that part of Ghana. Since then, I revised my whole idea about Valentine's Day being an Accra Kumasi.
No.
It's not. It's big out there.
Everywhere.
So I want to say that Vows Day, yes, is a day of virtues, not vices. Yes, it's a day for associates. It's not for abuse. It's also a day of lessons, not lewd behavior. Because sometimes we get into this lewdness, which is very terrible. It's also a day for sanity, not sensuality. So if you're talking about Vows Day as a young person, I've given you 2 options. Choose you this day what you would do. Is it going to be virtues, associates? Are you going to get into a place where you learn lessons from old and now? Is it a time where you're going to protect your own sanity? Or you're going to get into a place where there's sensuality, debasing behavior, lewdness? Is it a time where you're abusing others? The privilege they've given to you, trust they have with you? Is it a time where you are practicing vices? So whatever Vows Day means to you, that's fine. But just ensure that it doesn't leave you with scars or life-threatening conditions.
There's a choice between virtues and vices. The thoughts of Amos Kevin-Annan, who's been with us both last week and this week. Certified life coach, healthy homes advocate, and the CEO of Hearts and Habits Foundation. And just before his closing thoughts, we heard about love originating from God, and don't let the enemy hijack it. Hijacking is where somebody who's not the pilot seizes the cockpit and diverts the plane off the original course to his own destruction. And that was the voice of Dr. Ruth Owusu-Antwi, a lecturer at the medical school at KNUST, head of psychiatry at Komfo Teaching Hospital, and then also the immediate past president of the Psychiatric Association of Ghana. Mine is to just say a big thank you to both of you for what has been a very insightful couple of conversations.
It's been our pleasure.
So let's do this again.
Honored.
Let's do this again, and let's continue to talk and have good conversations, and hope that somebody listening will find help, strength, and encouragement to navigate their way forward. And if there's anything I pray for, is that every single show we have, every single day we matriculate and graduate at the end, someone will tell me 10 years later that was the day that changed my life forever.
Amen.
And that is the ultimate reward, more than anything else, for what we do.
Amen.
This has been Springboard, your virtual university, brought to you by the Springboard Ratio Foundation in partnership with MTN Ghana and the Enterprise Group and the Ghana Growth Program, a collaboration between MasterCard Foundation and Springboard. Our media partners, the Multimedia Group and the Graphic Communications Group. We want to sign off on today's conversation and say, let's do this again next week. Fresh panel as we continue exploring. Let's keep this conversation going as we refine what we do and get better every day. Till then, God bless you, and God bless you.
Turn around. Turning point. Yeah. He's a turn around.